The day my own son told me to leave the house, I was still holding a cup of tea in my hands. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just said it calmly. "Mom, you should go live somewhere else now." For a second, I thought I heard wrong. This was the same house I had lived in for 32 years. The same house where I raised him. The same house where his father took his last breath in my arms. I looked at his face. He wouldn't look back at me. My daughter-in-law was standing behind him. Arms crossed. No expression. Like this conversation was overdue, I said, "Beta, what are you saying?" "This is my home." He sighed. Like I was a problem. "Things are different now. We need space. You understand, right?" "Understand." That word broke something inside me. I remembered waking up at 5 a.m. for years, packing his lunch, saving money so he could go to college, selling my bangles when his fees were short. I said softly, "Where will I go?" My daughter-in-law finally spoke. "You can stay with your sister, or old age home." Many people do that. Old age home. She said it like she was suggesting a bus stop. I felt my hand shaking. The tea spilled on the floor. Nobody moved to help. My son said, "Mom, don't make this difficult." That's when I realized something painful. This was already decided. I was just being informed. I went to my room, the same room where I prayed for him every night. I opened my cupboard. Half my things were already packed. That hurt more than their words, so they planned this. While I cooked for them, while I washed their clothes, while I waited for my son to come home every night. I sat on the bed and said, "At least tell me what I did wrong." My son stood at the door. "You didn't do anything wrong." That instead stood at the door. "It's just time. Time. Time for a mother to disappear." I picked up my shawl, my medicine bag, and one old photo of my husband. As I walked out, I stopped near the main door. I turned back and said, "This house, your father built it for family, not to throw people out." My daughter-in-law looked away. My son said nothing. The door closed behind me. I stood outside for a long moment, listening to the lock click. That sound stayed in my chest. People passed by. Nobody noticed an old woman standing alone with a small bag. That night, I slept on my sister's sofa. I stared at the ceiling till morning. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't hurt, but because deep inside, I stayed quiet for a reason. Because I knew something they didn't. The first few days at my sister's house felt like I was invisible. She wasn't cruel, but she was busy. Her children were grown. Her life was already full. I slept on the sofa with my bag beside me. Every night, I folded my shawl neatly, like I didn't want to take too much space. In the mornings, I woke up before everyone else. Old habits don't die. I made tea quietly, washed my cup myself. I didn't want anyone to feel burdened. But inside, something was slowly breaking. I missed my room. I missed my window. I missed the sound of my son opening the gate at night. Even after what he did, I still listened for his footsteps in my mind. One evening, my sister said gently, "Maybe you should talk to him again." I nodded. But my heart was scared. Still, I called him. It rang. Once, twice, no answer. I tried again the next day. This time he picked up. "I'm busy," he said quickly. I said, "Beta, I just wanted to hear your voice." There was silence. Then he said, "I'll call you later." He never did. Days turned into weeks. My body started feeling heavy. My knees hurt more. My blood pressure went up. At night, pain sat in my chest like a stone. One morning, my sister found me sitting on the sofa, staring at nothing. She said, "You should see a doctor." I smiled and said, "It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. I felt unwanted. Like an old chair pushed into a corner. I stopped eating properly. Food had no taste. Sometimes I would hold my phone and scroll through old photos. My son as a child. His first school uniform. His graduation day. I whispered to myself, where did I go wrong? But no answer came. One afternoon I decided to go back to my house, just to collect some clothes, just to feel normal again. I didn't tell anyone. I took a rickshaw alone. When I reached the gate, my heart started beating fast. The lock was changed. I stood there confused. I knocked. My daughter-in-law opened the door a little. Her face changed when she saw me. "Oh, you," she said. I said, "I just came to take my clothes." She blocked the door with her body. "Next time, call before coming," I said softly. This is still my house. She laughed, not loudly, but enough. No, Ami, this is our house now. My son came from inside. He looked surprised, then uncomfortable. I said, Beta, I need my winter clothes. He said, we already gave them away. Gave them away, just like me. I felt dizzy. I said, can I at least sit for a minute? My daughter-in-law said, we're having guests. Guests. I nodded. I turned around slowly and walked away. This time, the door didn't just close. It erased me. That night, I cried for the first time. Not loudly. Just silent tears soaking my pillow. I wasn't crying because I was poor, or sick, or old. I was crying because my own child had made me feel homeless. After that day, I stopped calling. If they didn't need me, I wouldn't beg. Weeks passed. My sister hinted gently, you can't stay here forever. I understood. I found a small room near the mosque. One window, one fan, one thin mattress. It was all I could afford. The landlord looked at me and said, only one person, right? I nodded. That room became my world. I cooked on a small stove. I ate alone. At night, I listened to people laughing outside. Families. Children. Sometimes I pressed my ear to the wall just to hear voices. Loneliness is loud. People don't understand that. One day, I fell sick badly. High fever. No strength. I lay on the mattress, staring at the ceiling. I thought, if I die here, how long before anyone notices? That thought scared me. I reached for my phone. I almost called my son. My finger hovered over his name. Then I stopped. I put the phone down. I told myself, I won't die begging for love. That night, as I lay there shaking, I remembered something important. Something I had kept quiet about, something no one knew. And for the first time since that day at the door, I didn't feel weak. I felt patient, because what I was holding would change everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. My fever was still there. My body was weak, but my mind was awake. I kept thinking about that thing. The thing I had hidden. The thing no one ever asked me about. I slowly got up from the mattress. My legs were shaking. I went to my bag. The same old bag I carried when I left my son's house. Inside it, under my clothes, was a small brown envelope. Old, wrinkled, still sealed. I sat down and held it in my hands. My husband gave it to me years ago. He was already sick then. He said, keep this safe. Don't tell anyone. Not even our son. I asked him why. He smiled and said, people change. Paper doesn't. I never opened it. I trusted my son. I trusted my family. So I kept quiet. That night, my hands were shaking as I opened the envelope. Inside were documents. Property papers, bank papers, and a letter. I unfolded the letter slowly. It was written in my husband's handwriting. My eyes filled with tears. It said, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And maybe things are not the same anymore. My heart started beating fast. He wrote that the house was never fully transferred to our son. It was still in my name. Legally. He also wrote about a fixed deposit. And a small piece of land we bought quietly years ago. I didn't even know the value. He ended the letter with one line, use this only if you are forced to. Forced. I closed my eyes. So, that was it. They threw me out from a house that was still mine. They changed the lock on my door. They gave away my clothes while living under my name. I didn't feel angry. I felt calm. For the first time in months, my chest felt light. The next morning, I went to a clinic. The doctor checked me and said, you waited too long. I smiled and said, I was busy surviving. He gave me medicine and told me to rest. After that, I went somewhere else. A small lawyer's office near the market. I waited quietly on a wooden chair. When my turn came, I placed the papers on his table. He looked at them carefully. Then he looked at me. Mother, he said gently, do you know what you have here? I nodded. Yes, I do now. He explained everything clearly. The house, the land, the money. All mine. All mine, legally. He said, you were not supposed to leave that house. I said softly, I was told to. He sighed. Do you want to take action? I thought for a moment. I remembered my son as a child, holding my finger, calling me Mom. I said, not yet. I just wanted one thing: truth. So I asked the lawyer to send a simple legal notice, nothing dramatic. Just facts, ownership, rights, and one request: a meeting. When the notice was sent, I went back to my room. Days passed. I cooked. I prayed. I waited. Then one evening my phone rang. It was my son. I stared at the screen. My heart didn't jump this time. I answered. "Mom," he said. His voice was different, shaky. "Yes," I replied calmly. "Why didn't you tell us about this?" he asked. I said, "You never asked." Silence. He said, "We need to talk." I said, "Yes, we do. We fixed a day." After I cut the call, I sat quietly. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I felt ready. Because this time, I wasn't coming as a weak mother. I was coming as the owner. And they didn't know yet that this meeting would change their lives forever. The day of the meeting, I woke up early. I wore a simple dress. The same one I used to wear at home. No makeup, no jewelry, just dignity. When I reached the house, the gate was open. That felt strange. Inside, everything looked the same. Same sofa, same curtains. But it didn't feel like my home anymore. My son was sitting on one side, my daughter-in-law on the other, both quiet. I sat down slowly. Nobody offered me water. So I spoke first. "Thank you for calling me." My son cleared his throat. "Mom, we didn't know." I looked at him. "You didn't know what?" I asked. "That the house was in your name." I nodded. "Yes, that's true." My daughter-in-law jumped in. "Why would you hide something like that?" "Hide." I smiled a little. "I didn't hide it. I protected it." She frowned. I said, "You never asked, and you never cared." The room went silent. My son said, "We thought it was ours. Dad always said." I stopped him. "Your father also said to take care of your mother." His eyes dropped. I took out the letter. I placed it on the table. "Read it," I said. He opened it. As he read, his face changed. His hand started shaking. My daughter-in-law leaned forward, trying to read too. I watched them quietly. I wasn't angry. I was done explaining. After a moment, my son looked up. "Mom, I'm sorry." "Sorry." That word came too late. I said, "I didn't come here for apologies." Both of them looked confused. "I came to tell you something," I continued. "I am taking back my house." My daughter-in-law's eyes widened. "What?" "I will give you 3 months," I said calmly, "to find another place." She stood up. "This is our home." I looked at her. "No, this was my home. You made it unsafe for me." My son stood up too. "Mom, please." "Where will we go?" I felt something twist in my chest. But I stayed firm. "The same question I asked you," I said, "and you had no answer." Silence again. I stood up slowly. "I didn't want this," I said, "but you forced me." I walked to the door. My son followed me. "Mom, can we fix this?" I turned around. "Fixing starts with respect," I said. "You forgot that." I left. 3 months later, the house was empty. I moved back in. Alone. But peaceful. I didn't invite them. I didn't block them either. Sometimes my son calls. Sometimes he doesn't. My daughter-in-law never called again. I sit by my window every evening. I drink my tea. I feel calm. Justice doesn't always come with happiness. Sometimes it comes with silence. And that silence finally feels like home. Just when I thought I had survived betrayal, life showed me another face of cruelty. One that came from the person I trusted most. Just when I thought I had seen the worst a family could do, I realized pain has many faces. This time, it wasn't my son. It was my daughter. The same daughter who used to sleep holding my arm. The same daughter who cried when I got sick. The day she told me to leave, she didn't even stand up. I was standing in her living room, holding a small gift for my grandson. She was sitting on the sofa, scrolling on her phone. She said, without looking at me, "Mom, you can't stay here anymore." I laughed nervously. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I just came yesterday." She finally looked up. "Yes, and that's enough." My mouth went dry. I said, "Beta, I'm your mother." She sighed, like she had been waiting to say this. "That's the problem," she said. "You act like this is your house." Her husband was standing near the kitchen, listening, silent. I looked at him. He looked away. I said, I only stay in the guest room. I cook my own food, she said. That's not the point. Then what is? I asked. She put her phone down. You interfere. You talk too much. And honestly, my husband doesn't like it. There it was. I felt my legs go weak. I remembered helping her after her delivery, waking up at night with her baby, paying hospital bills quietly. I said softly, I thought I was helping. She said, I didn't ask you to. That sentence cut deep. I tried to smile. I'll stay just a few more days, I said. I don't feel well. She shook her head. No, it's better if you go today. Today. I looked around. My bag was already near the door, packed. I swallowed hard. You packed my things? I asked. She nodded. I thought it would be easier. Easier? For who? I picked up the bag slowly. My grandson ran into the room. Nani, where are you going? He asked. I knelt down and hugged him. I'll come back, I whispered. My daughter said sharply, Don't make promises you can't keep. I stood up. I looked at her one last time. Is this what I deserve? I asked. She didn't answer. I walked out. The door closed behind me. This time, it wasn't loud. It was final. I stood outside her apartment building. People were going up and down. Families, laughter. I felt small. I sat on the stairs for a long time. Then I told myself something. If my own daughter can do this, then I need to prepare for something worse. And I stayed quiet. Because once again, I knew something they didn't. I didn't know where to go. I sat on the stairs for almost an hour, watching people pass me like I didn't exist. I called my sister first. She didn't pick up. I called a cousin. She said, I'm out of town. I understood the hint. When you're old, people suddenly become busy. I finally took a bus to a cheap guest house near the railway station. The room smelled damp. One bed, one bulb flickering. I didn't complain. I locked the door and sat on the bed with my bag in my lap. That's when it hit me. My daughter didn't even ask if I had money, or medicine, or strength left. She just wanted me gone. That night, I didn't sleep. Trains passed every few minutes. The noise shook the walls. Every sound reminded me that I didn't belong anywhere. In the morning, my body felt heavy. My back hurt. My legs were swollen. I went downstairs to buy tea. The man at the counter looked at me and said, You staying alone? I nodded. He didn't say anything else, but his eyes did. That day, I tried calling my daughter. I just wanted to hear her voice. She didn't answer. I sent a message. Are you okay? Seen? No reply. That hurt more than being thrown out. Days passed. I stayed in that small room. I ate biscuits and tea. Sometimes rice, sometimes nothing. I didn't want to spend too much. I didn't know how long I would need to survive. One afternoon, I went to a nearby park. I sat on a bench. Old people were there, some talking. Some just sitting quietly like me. I heard one woman say, My son sends money but never visits. Another man said, My children live abroad. I talked to them once a year. Everyone had a story. Everyone had loss. I realized something. Being old doesn't hurt. Being unwanted does. One evening, I felt dizzy while walking back. The ground moved. I held a wall and slowly sat down. A young girl asked, Auntie, are you okay? I nodded, even though I wasn't. She helped me to the guest house. She said, You should have someone with you. I smiled. I used to, I said. That night, my fever came back. I lay on the bed, shivering. I thought about my daughter as a child. How she used to run to me after school. How she cried when I scolded her once. I whispered into the dark, When did I become so easy to throw away? My phone buzzed. For a second, my heart jumped. It wasn't her. It was a message from the guest house owner. Rent due tomorrow. I stared at the screen. My savings were almost gone. I counted the money in my purse. Not enough for another week. I felt fear rise in my chest. Real fear. Not emotional, practical. What happens when the money ends? That night, I opened my bag. I took out some old papers, things I never paid attention to before, receipts, letters, a small diary. As I flipped through them, something fell out. An envelope, thin, yellowed, my name written on it. I stared at it for a long time. My hands started shaking. I remembered why I kept it, why I never opened it, and suddenly the fear inside me slowed down because once again, my children didn't know everything, and maybe that was about to change everything. I sat on the bed holding that envelope like it was something dangerous. My name was written in my daughter's handwriting. That surprised me. I hadn't seen her write anything for me in years. I opened it slowly. Inside was a letter and a folded document. I read the letter first. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to say these things to your face. My chest tightened. She wrote that years ago when her marriage was falling apart, when her husband wanted to leave, when she had nowhere to go, she wrote that I'd quietly helped her then, paid debts, spoke to people, protected her reputation. Then came the part that made my hands shake. She wrote that she had taken a loan in my name, without telling me. A big one. She promised in the letter that she would pay it back, that it was temporary, that she would fix everything before I ever found out. Attached was the document, the loan papers, my name, my CNIC, my signature. A signature I didn't remember signing. I felt cold. So that was it. That's why she didn't want me in her house. That's why she was nervous when I talked about paperwork. That's why she wanted distance. If something happened to her, that loan would fall on me. I sat there for a long time. I didn't cry. I felt something else. Clarity. The next morning, I went straight to the bank. The manager checked the records. He looked uncomfortable. "Mother," he said, "this loan hasn't been paid for months." My stomach dropped. "How much?" I asked. He told me the amount. I felt dizzy. He said, "If payments don't resume, legal action will start." Legal action. At my age. I walked out slowly. Outside the bank, I sat on a bench. I didn't feel betrayed anymore. I felt used. That afternoon, I went to a small legal office. The lawyer listened quietly. He looked at the documents, then he looked at me. "Your daughter committed fraud," he said calmly. That word hit me hard. Fraud. "She forged your signature," he continued. "And she removed you from her house so you wouldn't find out." I closed my eyes. Everything made sense now. The cold behavior, the sudden eviction, the silence. The lawyer asked, "What do you want to do?" I thought of my daughter's face, her voice, her child. I said, "I want the truth to come out." He nodded. "We can send a notice," he said, "to her and to the bank." I agreed. That evening, I went back to my room. I didn't feel weak. I felt steady. My daughter thought pushing me away would protect her. She didn't realize. She pushed me toward the truth. And once truth comes out, it doesn't stay quiet for long. 2 days later, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer immediately. I took a deep breath. Then I picked up. "Mom," she said. Her voice was shaking. "We need to talk." I looked at the wall in front of me. "Yes," I said calmly. "We do." And for the first time, she sounded scared. Because this time, I wasn't coming as a helpless mother. I was coming as the one holding the truth. We met at a cafe near the bank. Neutral place. No shouting. No drama. My daughter came late. Her eyes were tired. Her hands kept shaking. She didn't hug me. She just sat down and said, "Why did you go to a lawyer?" I looked at her. "Why did you take a loan in my name?" I asked. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Finally, she said, "I was desperate." I nodded. "I was desperate too," I said, "when you threw me out." She looked down. Her husband walked in then. He sat beside her. He didn't look angry. He looked scared. I placed the papers on the table. "The bank knows," I said calmly. "The lawyer knows." My daughter whispered, "You wouldn't do this to me." I leaned forward. "You already did it to yourself," I said. Silence. Her husband finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked her. She started crying. "I didn't want you to think less of me," she said. He looked at me. "I didn't know," he said quietly. I nodded. "I believe you," I said. Then I stood up. "I didn't come here to send anyone to jail," I said. "I came to protect myself." They both looked at me. "I will not pay this loan," I continued. "You will." My daughter looked up sharply. "How?" she asked. "That's not my problem," I replied. The lawyer's notice had already been sent. The bank had frozen the account. They had two choices: fix it quietly or face court. My daughter broke down. "I'm sorry, Mom," she cried. "I was scared." I looked at her. "I was scared too," I said, but I didn't lie. Her husband held her hand. He looked at me again. "We will handle it," he said. "Every payment." I nodded. "That's all I wanted," I said. I walked out of the cafe alone, but lighter. Weeks later, the bank called me. The loan was transferred. My name was cleared. No more threats. No more fear. My daughter called sometimes after that. Our talks were short. Careful. Broken things don't fix fast. I didn't move back in with her. I didn't ask. She didn't offer, but something changed. She stopped controlling the story. Truth did. Now I live quietly. I manage my expenses. I sleep without fear. Justice didn't come with hugs. It came with boundaries. And for the first time, I chose myself over silence. After everything I endured, I thought I had seen the worst. But then, someone else's family turned against them in a way I never imagined. Just when I thought I had seen betrayal before, I realized cruelty can come from the person you trust the most. It was my son-in-law this time, not my children, not even my husband. He had passed years ago. The day it started, I was in the kitchen, preparing dinner like I always did. My daughter's husband walked in, looking angry. I smiled. "Do you want tea?" I asked. He waved his hand dismissively. "No. Sit down. We need to talk." I set the knife down carefully. Something in his tone made my heart tighten. He said, "We can't have you living here anymore." I blinked. "Excuse me?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You heard me," he said calmly. "You're making too much trouble in the house. It's better if you move out." I took a step back. My daughter, what about her?" "She agrees," he said. "She wants peace in her home." My hands started shaking. I remembered raising my daughter, protecting her, paying for her education, waking up every morning for her breakfast, sleeping late every night to make sure she had everything. And now she agreed to this? I whispered. "Did she tell you to say this?" He smirked slightly. "She doesn't need to. I handle it." I felt dizzy. The room seemed smaller. The walls were closing in. My daughter walked in then. She avoided looking at me. She kept her eyes on the floor. "I think it's better this way," she said softly. "Better? Better for who?" I felt tears burning in my eyes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg, but I stayed quiet. I picked up my shawl slowly. I will leave then," I said. My son-in-law nodded. No emotion, no apology. I turned toward the door. I paused. I looked at my daughter. "Do you even feel guilty?" I asked. She shook her head. No tears. No remorse. The door closed behind me, and in that click, I felt every year of love, care, and sacrifice vanish in an instant. I walked down the street, alone, people passing by, unaware of the betrayal I carried. I didn't cry yet. I stayed quiet, because deep inside I knew there was more to this story than they realized. And whatever it was, I would find it. I didn't know where to go. The first night, I ended up in a small room I rented from a distant relative. It was tiny. One bed, one chair, a single light bulb that flickered every few seconds. I didn't care. I just needed a roof over my head. I sat on the bed with my shawl wrapped tightly around me. The silence was heavy, too heavy. Every corner of that room reminded me of my life before my daughter's husband decided I was a problem. I remembered mornings in my daughter's house, waking up at 5 a.m., making breakfast, cleaning, washing clothes. All the little things no one noticed. All the little things I did for love. Now all that love felt like it had been thrown away. I tried calling my daughter. Her number rang, then went to voicemail. Again and again, no answer. I sent messages, no reply. Seen, it hurt more than their words that day. Being ignored made me feel invisible. The days dragged. I ate what I could afford. Rice, lentils, sometimes just bread. I didn't want to waste money on myself. I started taking long walks, just to keep moving. The world outside was loud, full of life, full of families, and I felt like I was standing behind a glass wall, watching but never part of it. One evening, I sat in a small park near my room. An old man sat beside me. He said, "It gets harder the longer they push you away." I nodded silently. We didn't need to talk. He understood. That night, I barely slept. The walls of my room felt like they were closing in. I thought about my daughter's house, her son, my grandson, probably asleep in his room, unaware that his grandmother was now homeless. A few days later, I fell ill. My body refused to cooperate. I had a high fever. My legs ached. I couldn't eat. I tried calling my daughter again. This time, my finger hovered over her name for minutes. I couldn't press it. I didn't want to hear her voice, not when it could remind me of what she did. I stayed in bed that day, shivering under a thin blanket. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. I was truly alone. No one would care if something happened to me. No one would check on me. I thought about going to the hospital, but what if I had to explain everything? What if they asked me whose responsibility I was? I closed my eyes. I whispered to myself, I can't stay weak. I have to survive. I must survive. That night, as I lay shivering, I remembered the small envelope hidden in my old things, the one my husband had given me years ago. I had never opened it. I had kept it hidden, quietly out of fear and respect. And now I felt it calling me. Because I had learned something important. Even when your own family turns against you, sometimes the only thing standing between despair and justice is the truth you've been holding all along. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and took out the small envelope my husband had given me years ago. It was worn, yellowed at the edges. I had never opened it, not because I was afraid, but because I thought my family didn't need to know. Now, shaking from fever and exhaustion, I slowly opened it. Inside were a few papers, a small legal document, some bank papers, and a handwritten note. I unfolded the note. It was in my husband's handwriting. Familiar, steady, and calm. It read, "If you are ever in trouble, if anyone ever tries to push you away, these papers are yours to use. The house, the money, everything remains in your name. Do not let anyone take what is rightfully yours." I felt my chest tighten. I had been living in fear and uncertainty for days, wondering how I would survive, and all this time, the power to protect myself had been quietly in my hands. I unfolded the legal papers. The house, my daughter's home, the very place her husband kicked me out from, was legally still mine, and there was a small savings account, set aside long ago, untouched, in my name. A rush of emotion hit me. Relief, disbelief, and a strange calm. The next morning, I went straight to a lawyer I had contacted quietly before, explaining the situation. He looked at the papers, then at me, and said, "Mother, you have every right. Legally, you never had to leave. You were forced out." I nodded. No tears yet. Just a strange sense of readiness. "You want action?" he asked. I thought about my daughter. About her husband. About being helpless and humiliated. I said softly, "Yes, but not out of revenge. I just want the truth to be known, and to protect myself." He nodded, understanding. A few days later, a legal notice was sent. It stated the facts clearly. The property belongs to me. Any encumbrances, debts, or actions taken without my consent are invalid. Then the call came, my daughter, her voice shaky. "Mom, we need to talk," she said. I didn't answer immediately. I took a deep breath and replied calmly, "Yes, we do." For the first time since she pushed me away, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel panic. I felt steady. Because now, I was no longer just a helpless mother. I was a mother holding the truth. And that truth would change everything. The day we met, it wasn't at her house. It was a neutral place, a small cafe near the bank. I arrived early, sat at a table near the window, keeping the envelope and papers in my bag. When my daughter and her husband walked in, I didn't stand. I didn't rush to hug them. I simply nodded. Her husband's face was pale. My daughter sat down, fidgeting with her phone. She didn't look at me at first. I opened my bag slowly and placed the papers on the table, the bank documents, the legal notice, the letter from my husband. I said calmly, "Read this." Her hands shook as she picked up the papers. Her husband leaned over. I watched them quietly. She finished reading the letter first, then the bank documents, then the legal notice. I saw the color drain from her face. Fear, shock, regret. I didn't say a word. Finally, she whispered, "Mom, I didn't know it would go this far." I leaned forward slightly. "Did you think kicking me out would protect you?" I asked. "You thought you could hide the truth," her husband said quietly. We didn't know." I nodded. "Now you do." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said. I said softly, "I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to protect myself." Her husband glanced at me, then at her. "We will pay the loan," he said. "Every single installment." I nodded. That's all I wanted. "The rest is your responsibility. No yelling, no shouting, no dramatics." I stood up, took my bag, and walked out. The air outside felt lighter than it had in weeks. I wasn't scared anymore. Weeks later, I received confirmation from the bank. The loan was cleared. My name was safe. My daughter called me sometimes. Short conversations, careful words. I didn't move back in with her. I didn't ask. She didn't offer, but the power had shifted. The truth had been revealed. The boundary had been set. Now, when I sit in my small room at night, I drink my tea quietly by the window. I sleep without fear. Justice doesn't always come with hugs. It comes with truth, with boundaries, and with the knowledge that even when your own family turns against you, you can protect yourself. And for the first time in months, I finally feel peace. Every time I thought the worst was behind me, life reminded me that even our own children can break our hearts. Just when I thought I had survived every betrayal, I learned that sometimes the cruelty comes from someone you've loved for decades. This time it was my son. The boy I raised, nurtured, and dreamed about. The one I trusted more than anyone. It started on a rainy afternoon. I had just finished ironing his shirts. I placed them neatly on his bed. He walked in, dripping wet from the storm. I said, "Take an umbrella next time, Beta." He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at me with a coldness I didn't recognize. Then he said it. The words cut deeper than any knife. "Mom, I want you to move out." I froze. The iron slipped from my hand and fell to the floor. I stared at him. "Move out," I whispered. "Yes," he said calmly, almost like he was explaining the weather. "This house is mine now. I need my space. It's better if you live somewhere else." I felt my knees weaken. I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight. "Beta, what about everything? This house, your father, our family." He shook his head. "It's nothing personal. We just need space." I looked around the room. Every corner was filled with memories, photos of his childhood, the bed he slept in, the toys he loved. And now he wanted me out. I felt tears rise, but I swallowed them. I tried to be calm. Where will I go?" I asked softly. His face didn't change. "Find somewhere else. Mom, it's better this way." I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg, but I didn't. Instead, I picked up my shawl slowly. My hands were shaking. My heart was breaking. My son turned away, pretending to check his phone. My voice trembled. "But this is still our home. Your father built it for family, not to throw me out." He didn't answer. I left the room. I walked past the living room, past the photos of our family smiling. I opened the front door, and the rain hit me like the weight of the world. I stood there for a long time, watching the water pour down. Watching my son, the boy I raised, turn into someone I barely recognized. And for the first time in my life, I stayed quiet. Because deep down, I knew I had a secret they didn't. A secret that could change everything. I didn't have anywhere to go. The first night, I stayed at a relative's house. It was small, crowded, and noisy. I slept on a sofa that squeaked with every movement. I didn't complain. I just needed a roof over my head. Days passed. I ate whatever I could afford. Rice, lentils, sometimes just bread. I didn't want to burden anyone. I didn't even want to ask for help. I spent hours sitting by the window, staring at the street. People walking by, families laughing, children running with umbrellas in the rain. All the life I had built with my son, gone in an instant. I tried calling him. No answer. I sent messages. They were read, but never replied to. It hurt more than the words he spoke. Being ignored made me feel invisible. I started taking long walks to calm my mind. I went to the small park near my relative's house. There were elderly people there too, sitting silently, staring at the sky. I realized I wasn't the only one who had been abandoned. One afternoon, I felt dizzy while walking back from the market. My legs gave out, and I had to hold on to a wall. A young man noticed me and helped me to my relative's house. I used to have someone who cared. I whispered to myself. No, I didn't. That night, as I lay shivering under a thin blanket, I thought about the years I had spent raising my son, the mornings I woke up before him, cooking his breakfast, the nights I stayed awake, worrying about his future, the sacrifices no one ever acknowledged. I felt a deep, heavy emptiness. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling small, unwanted, and helpless. But then, I remembered something. The small envelope my husband had left me before he passed. I had kept it hidden for years. I had never opened it. Tonight, I felt I had no choice. Because sometimes, the only thing between despair and justice is a secret you've been carrying quietly all along. That night, I finally took out the small envelope my late husband had left me. It was tucked deep in an old box of papers, almost forgotten. The edges were yellowed. The flap was still sealed. I held it in my hands for a long time. My fingers trembled, but I knew it was time. Slowly, I opened it. Inside were a few papers, a letter in my husband's handwriting, property documents, and some bank statements. I unfolded the letter first. If you ever find yourself alone, or someone tries to take advantage of you, these papers are yours. The house, the accounts, everything is legally in your name. Do not let anyone take what belongs to you. I felt my chest tighten. All the fear, all the nights of uncertainty, all the pain of being thrown out, it could have been avoided. I picked up the property papers. The house my son had kicked me out of. Legally, it was still mine, and there was a small savings account, untouched, in my name. A strange calm washed over me. The next morning, I went to a lawyer I trusted. I handed him the documents. He read them carefully, nodding slowly. "Mother," he said, "you were never legally forced to leave. Your son's actions could be challenged." I nodded silently. No tears yet. Just a quiet readiness. "You want action?" the lawyer asked. I thought about my son, about being humiliated in my own home, about the nights I cried alone. I said softly, "Yes, I want the truth to be revealed, and I want to protect myself." He nodded. A few days later, a legal notice was sent to my son. It stated clearly, "The house belongs to me. All transactions without my consent are invalid." A meeting was requested. Then my phone rang. My son's name appeared on the screen. My heart didn't race this time. I answered calmly. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, voice shaking. "Yes," I said softly, "we do." For the first time since that rainy day, I didn't feel fear. I felt steady. Because this time I wasn't just a helpless mother. I was a mother holding the truth, and truth was about to change everything. The day of the meeting, I arrived at a small, neutral office. No shouting, no dramatics, just a quiet place where facts could speak louder than emotions. My son and his wife were already there. He looked uneasy. She avoided my eyes. I placed the envelope and papers on the table, the property documents, the bank statements, the letter from my husband. I said calmly, "Read this." My son picked up the letter first, then the papers, then the legal notice. I watched their faces, shock, guilt, fear. Finally, my son spoke. "Mom, I didn't know it was all in your name." I nodded. "Yes, legally it always was." His wife whispered, Why didn't you tell us?" I leaned forward. "You never asked. You only wanted me gone." Silence filled the room. The truth was heavier than any argument. My son said softly, "We will pay the bank. Every installment." I nodded. "That's all I wanted. The rest is your responsibility." No shouting, no tears from me, just quiet, calm. I stood up. "I didn't come here for apologies," I said. "I came to protect myself." They both looked down. No words left to say. I walked out of the office alone. For the first time in months, the weight lifted. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't helpless anymore. Weeks later, I received confirmation that the bank account was cleared. The loan was fully transferred. My name was safe. My son calls sometimes. Short conversations. Careful words. I didn't move back in with them. I didn't ask. They didn't offer. But now, I sleep without fear. I manage my life quietly, and I finally feel peace. Justice doesn't always come with hugs or apologies. It comes with truth, with boundaries, and the knowledge that even when your own family turns against you, you can survive. And sometimes, that's enough. Just when I believed I had faced the deepest pain, another story came along, and this time the betrayal was quiet, subtle, and almost invisible. Just when I thought I had seen it all, I realized some betrayals come quietly, like a shadow, until they crush you. This time, it was my daughter-in-law, not my children, not my husband. He had passed years ago. It was her. I was in my son's house, cleaning the kitchen, as I always did, cooking, sweeping, doing all the little things no one noticed. She came home from work that day. I greeted her. "Good evening," I said, smiling. She didn't answer. She just looked at me and said, "Mom, I need you to leave." I froze. The spoon slipped from my hand. I didn't understand. "Excuse me," I whispered. She folded her arms. "Your presence, it's making things difficult here. I need my space. I can't live with you around." I felt the floor shake beneath me. I tried to speak. "My son, what about him? You know I'm part of this family." She shook her head. "Times have changed. You don't belong here anymore." My hands started trembling. I remembered every moment I had spent raising my children, every meal I cooked, every sleepless night, every sacrifice. And now I was unwanted. I tried to hold back tears. I wanted to shout. I wanted to beg, but I stayed quiet. I picked up my shawl slowly, my heart breaking with every step toward the door. I looked at her. "Is this what I deserve?" I asked softly. She didn't answer. I walked out of the house. The door closed behind me, not loudly, just final. Outside, the street was busy. People laughing, families passing by. I felt invisible, but deep down, I knew I had something they didn't. A secret, a truth. And that secret would change everything. I had nowhere to go. The first night, I stayed at a small rundown guest house near the market. The room was tiny, one thin mattress, a flickering bulb that barely lit the space. I didn't complain. I just needed a roof over my head. Days passed. I ate whatever little I could afford, rice, lentils, sometimes just bread. I didn't want to bother anyone. I didn't want to ask for help. I spent hours staring out the window, watching families pass by, watching children laughing and running in the park, and remembering my own grandchildren, the ones I loved and nurtured, now kept away from me by my daughter-in-law. I tried calling my son. He picked up once. "I'm busy," he said, and hung up. I sent messages, read, ignored. It hurt more than the words that pushed me out. Being invisible to my own family cut deeper than rejection. I walked the streets aimlessly. Sometimes I ended up at the park, elderly people sitting silently on benches. We didn't speak, we just understood each other. One evening, I felt dizzy while walking back from the market. My legs shook. I gripped a wall to steady myself. A kind shopkeeper noticed me and offered help. I whispered to myself, I used to have a home. I used to be loved. That night, I lay on the thin mattress, shivering under a blanket. I thought about the years I spent raising my children, cooking, cleaning, sacrificing, protecting them. And now I had nothing. I felt fear creeping in. Fear of illness, fear of running out of money, fear of being alone forever. Then I remembered something. The small envelope my husband had left me years ago. I had kept it hidden all this time. Tonight, I knew I had to open it. Because when your own family turns against you, sometimes the only thing between despair and justice is the secret you've been carrying quietly all along. That night, I finally took out the small envelope my late husband had given me years ago. It was tucked away in an old box of papers, forgotten for so long. The edges were yellowed, the flap still sealed. I held it tightly. My hands were shaking, but I knew I had to open it. Inside were a few papers. A letter in my husband's handwriting, some bank statements, and legal documents. I unfolded the letter first. If you ever find yourself alone, or anyone tries to take advantage of you, these papers are yours. The house, the accounts, everything remains in your name. Do not let anyone take what belongs to you. My chest tightened. All the fear, the nights of uncertainty, the humiliation of being pushed out. It could have been avoided. I picked up the property documents. The house my daughter-in-law had forced me out of, legally, it was still mine. And there was a small savings account, untouched, in my name. A strange calm washed over me. The next morning, I went to a lawyer I trusted. I handed him the papers. He read them carefully, nodding slowly. "Mother," he said, "you were never legally forced to leave. Your daughter-in-law's actions could be challenged." I nodded silently. No tears, just quiet readiness. "You want action?" he asked. I thought about my son, about being humiliated in my own home, about the nights I cried alone. I said softly, "Yes, I want the truth to be revealed. And I want to protect myself." A few days later, a legal notice was sent to my daughter-in-law. It stated clearly, "The house belongs to me. Any transactions without my consent are invalid." A meeting was requested, then my phone rang. It was my son. His name flashed on the screen. My heart didn't race this time. I answered calmly, "Mom, we need to talk," he said, voice shaking. "Yes," I replied, "we do." For the first time since that day in the kitchen, I didn't feel fear. I felt steady. Because this time, I wasn't just a helpless mother. I was a mother holding the truth. And truth was about to change everything. The day of the meeting, we met at a small office near the bank. Neutral ground. No yelling. No dramatics. My son and daughter-in-law arrived. Her face was pale. He looked tense. Neither of them dared meet my eyes. I placed the envelope and papers on the table. The letter from my husband. The property documents. The bank statements. I said calmly, "Read this." My daughter-in-law's hands shook as she picked up the papers. Her husband leaned over. I watched them quietly. They read the documents in silence. Shock, guilt, fear. Finally, my daughter-in-law whispered, "Mom, I didn't know it was still in your name." I nodded. "Yes, legally it always was." Her husband said quietly, "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him. I didn't need to. She chose to keep me away. Silence. Then my daughter-in-law said, tears in her eyes, "I'm so sorry, Mom." I leaned forward. "I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to protect myself." Her husband said softly, "We will handle it. We will pay the bank, every installment." I nodded. That's all I wanted. The rest is your responsibility. No shouting, no drama, just calm. I stood up and walked out. The weight I carried for weeks lifted immediately. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't helpless. Weeks later, the bank confirmed that the loan was fully cleared. My name was safe. My son calls sometimes. Short conversations, careful words. I didn't move back in. I didn't ask. They didn't offer. But now, I sleep without fear. I manage my life quietly, and I finally feel peace. Justice doesn't always come with hugs or apologies. Sometimes it comes with truth, with boundaries, and with the knowledge that even when your own family turns against you, you can survive. And sometimes that's enough. After all these stories, one thing became clear. Family can hurt, betray, and abandon. But sometimes the truth, patience, and courage are the only justice we need.